Cool. Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Hour Long Deluxe. I'm your host, Captain Quasar, and today we are just going to be scrolling around YouTube. I have a few things lined up. Like this first part, going to be real simple. I've heard about these pirated North Korean TV YouTube channels where they some guy hacked into the signal of North Korean TV, so he uploads different like broadcasts. So I wanted to skim through this and see how the propaganda really looks, because the part I find weird is like we really have no understanding of North Korea. It's like we see we believe that they live in pure destitution and like torture and stuff. But I mean, if they have even TVs with propaganda on it, that's more than I would have assumed they had. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting just to see this in general. I haven't gotten much of any insight into North Korea, but that's just me. I think this is just Pirate TV is the name of this stream, I guess is what this guy calls it.
Here we go again, guys. Going to North Korea again. But before we go there, for all the weirdness, check out our sponsor, IoTmug.com. For all your traffic light controller and flippers.
I'm pretty sure these are illegal to buy. I don't know if it's illegal to advertise.
Yes. Check out our sponsor, IoTmug.com. For all your traffic light controller.
Because I think he's saying, I don't know, this guy kind of has a weird, cadence in the way that he speaks. I think he's saying a traffic light switcher.
And Flipper Zero accessories.
And then whatever this thing is.
Check out IoTmug.com. For more information, look in the description. IoTmug.com.
I'm already horrified.
When you're raised by an immigrant mother, you learn what's possible with determination.
This must be their national anthem. Good for them. I kind of don't care about this part. There's their wonderful leader. Little bow.
오늘은 8월 16일 금요일.
Let's see, does he get it translated into English? Yes or no? Nope. Only the auto subtitles.
음력으로
Weird Woman. That's what this section is called. Weird Woman.
지금부터 중앙 텔레비전 방
Some Kim Il-sung remembrance. He's adding his little sauce onto it. Good for him. Cool. This isn't what I want to see. I want to see. Here comes Kim. Okay, let's see what he looks like these days. Yo, this music is blasting. He's stunning. Where are all the people crying in hysteria over him? Yeah, look at him. This is how people react when they're around him. They cry in pure hysteria because this man has never taken a shit before. It's kind of insane. This is Here Comes Kim still. Military Greatness Sing-Along. Kind of swagadelic. Yelling Woman News Update.
평안북도와 자강도, 량강도의 수해 지역 주민들이
She's been doing this for 30 years. She's been doing this for her whole life. That's why she's so good at it. That's why she's not yelling. She's projecting, letting everybody know the news.
평양에 도착했습니다.
I wish I had some translations because I want to know if she's saying like, in other news, Kim Jong-un saved 1 million babies today when he flew across the world and rained droplets of love and angel tears out of his nipples. I'm always wondering if that is kind of the the way they talk about him, because they say that those are like the things that, not that specifically, but like the whole thing about him he's never taken a shit before. He doesn't need to sleep or eat or anything, even though he's morbidly obese.
경례하는 김정은 동지께서 몸소 숙소에 나오시어 수재민들을 따뜻이 맞아주셨습니다. 인민을 하늘처럼 받들고 억척으로 지키는 것을 신성한 본거로 절대 불변의 존재 방식으로 하는 우리 당의 숭고한 뜻과 자의 손길은
So this is just some news showing all the people that love him so much. I hope he doesn't send a nuke to my house. I mean, he didn't send a nuke to this guy's house.
김정은 동지께서는 평양에서 수해 지역 주민들을 맞이하며
I heard
하게 된
Pyongyang.
기쁨과 그들이 당과 정부가 취한 조치들을 믿고 따.
So that's something.
911, what's your emergency?
Yeah.
Can you hear it? It's coming.
잘 먹고 렁무러
Our Utopia sing-along. It is just crazy. Imagine the people that are there, that are just having to listen to this every day. Their TVs must come on and then they're stuck on all day. They don't have the option to turn them off. You don't get silence, you get propaganda in your ear. They don't even get to listen to the new Lil Baby. That's crazy. Maybe I need to go to North Korea. I don't know why this is the part that I'm watching. Yelling Woman News Bulletin.
조국의 자주 독립과 인민의 해방을 위해
I just want to see her again.
경의하는 김정은 동지께서
She is a little aggressive, can't lie. She's just coming in hot. She wants you to know that she's there. War Remembrance. War Remembrance.
건설이 한창이던 수치 40.
자기들이 거처지에까지 찾아오신 원수님을
Oh. It's him saving people from floods.
천만 뜻밖의 비옵게 된 수재민들은 뜨거운 감격과 족정의 눈물을 쏟으며
Just the way you can tell. Because a child, it's hard to lie. And the way the family's like, oh no, she's not showing him enough affection. We're all gonna get hit with a missile. Didn't he do that to like his brother or something? Wasn't it like his brother was trying to like get him? Because his brother was trying to get him assassinated. But then it was I don't maybe it was a general or something. I think he had his brother eaten by dogs. It was some shit like that. But he had there was somebody they had eaten by dogs, and there was somebody else that crossed him trying to have him assassinated or something like that. So they he had him walk out in a field, and then they shot him with a missile, from a plane, and then just hit him with a missile. And that's kind of crazy if I do say so myself.
수재민들은 어제는 사납게 범람하는 물길을 달려 피해 현장에 몸소 나오시어 오래도록 계시면서 사경에 처하였던 자기들 한 명 한 명의 생명을 모두 구원해 주시고 오늘은 또 이렇게 자기들이 생활하고 있는 천막에까지 찾아오시어 육친의 정을 부어주시는 사배주의 대.
The way they all started having to like act happy. Like, look at all their faces. Oh my god. Look at this person's face right here. Hidden behind the leader, the emperor. Look at that hairline, too. Did that shit get any more pushed back? My god.
모두 구원해 주시고 오늘은 또 이렇게 자기들이 생활하고 있는 천막에까지 찾아오시어
He said, you got a fucking problem?
친의
She said,
정을
no, we're
부어주시는
happy.
사배주의
We're happy.
대가정의 오보이를 눈물 속에 우러르며
Yay.
고마움의 인사를 삼가 올렸습니다.
Kim is here. Kim is here. Yay, yay, yay. They're all like in fear. They've all been living hell through this flood or whatever. Who knows if he just fucking broke a dam down to flood them out and then just to get this scene. But he's like, see, you have to act like now that we're here, you're like super happy. You're so happy because now everything's going to be right. Everything's going to be better. Or maybe he really is just that good of a leader.
Amazing helped Anthony through night classes. Amazing starts at CSL Plasma. Donate plasma today and receive a...
찜을 크는 날씨에도 불편을 무릅쓰시고 수재민들과 오래도록 담화를 나누시며 손도 따뜻이 잡아주시고 위로해 주시고 신심과 용기도 배배해 주시는 신오보이의 뜨거운 정에 수재민들 모두가 북받치는 감격을.
This is kind of the part that I was looking for. This is so crazy. Why is this part so long too? This is like one of the longest parts. Happy Land Extreme. The way you can tell, this is all like, dude. Is this a resort? What is this? It looks like it ends right here. This is the whole thing. It's about 1 square mile. Because like this shot right here, this shot is so obviously framed. Like the way they have it set up, they're like, okay, do another take.
채집을 받아온 농장원들이 정신세계는 한층 더 높아졌습니다. 우리
Okay.
농장원들 한결같이 말합니다.
Okay.
수면에도 남보다 먼저 하고.
Interesting, okay. I don't even know what this is. This is just showing that their life is so good. I don't know, that this one town is amazing. It's like I'm saying, just the way it's all set up just looks so fake, too. It's just so bad. These like perfect buildings with flowers in front of them, but then right behind it is hills and grass and like hardly anything else. Who's this guy?
말에도 조국보유 처소에서던 제대군인입니다. 우리 고향 마을을 사회주 성경으로 꾸려준.
Who's this guy? He was excited. I wonder if the guy who records these is slowly starting to understand North Korean. Whatever language they speak. North Korean Idol? Is that actually what this is? I don't think that's what this is.
그래서 구체적으로 알아보았다고 합니다.
Kim saves us all.
그러니 너희들의 진정한 아버지는
경야는 원수님을 결사보이하는 병사가 되겠습니다. 저것보이 저소에서 영적 위원을 세워 키워준 그 품에 꼭 보답하는 참된 아들이 되겠습니다.
경의하는 총비서동지께서는 혁명 용도의 그처럼 바쁘신 속에서도 새쌍둥이의 소박한 결의가 담긴 편지를 보아주시고 사랑.
Is this a picture of the leader? Is he one of these boys? Yelling communist news update. I want to know who makes all these graphics.
통나무 생산과 산림 조성의 균형을 보장하고 운반 능력을
They seem pretty
제고하며
talented.
물질 기술적 토대를 다지기 위한 사업을 계속 힘있게 내밀어야 합니다. 투쟁이
Their
더욱
consistency
힘있게
is pretty
진척되는
good.
데 따라 어느 부문에서나 더 많이 요구되는 것은 다름 아닌 세멘트를 비롯
3단계 1만 세대 살림집 건설을 힘있게 내밀어 온갖 시련 속에서
Okay, I'm sorry.
창창한 내일을
He said, "Go communism."
해결을 요하는 문제, 이민 생활의 안정 향상과 직결되는 실용적인 문제들을 푸는 데
Another song. Just more music. And then the yelling woman again.
경의하는 김정은 동지께서 조국 해방 79.
She's my favorite.
사회주의 건설의 주요 전구들로 탄원했습니다.
날씨를 알려드리겠습니다. 최근에 여러 지역에서 폭염, 북부 내륙의 여러
Awesome
지역에서
weather.
오후와 밤 사이 한때 비와
So it's raining, but they're mostly sunny over here. But this is all in the glory of our great leader. He decided to give us rain because these areas need rain.
내일 예견되는 강수량은 북서해 해상은 주로 계획했습니다. 모레 저선동해
So we have the sea level.
소풍이,
Interesting.
저선소해 해상에선 북동풍이 것입니다.
Show you how high the tides are gonna get, I guess.
평균 기온은
With Kim, is he singing? No. So the most replayed is is this part with tomorrow's schedule.
11시 30분 특집 숭리존 통교양의 대
People will watch the ending, I guess.
이상으로 오늘 중앙
She looks like she was crying. Why is this horrifying?
방송을 마치겠습니다. 여러분 안녕히 계십시오. 여기는 평양입니다.
I like your little top up here. So this is from today.
Determination is how Kamala Harris
fights for women's
Oh, it's just the
reproductive
news and the
rights
weather.
every day because she knows
with determination.
When we fight, we win!
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this.
I hope he thinks about putting in more effort now that he realizes he has a national audience or an international audience.
경의하는 김정은 동지께서
She's putting in even more emphasis on her speech. She's making sure that everybody can hear. All the people in the back don't even have to worry about it.
지방발전사업협의회를 지도하셨습니다. 혁명 용도의 천사만사를 오직 인민의 권익을 절대적으로 전면적 부으로 제기되는 강령 실현에서
For such a powerful leader, they never let him speak for himself.
근 80년간 리상으로만 그려보던 지방 변혁의 대업을 10년 혁명 기간 내
Because they have all this stuff on TV, but I wonder if truly it is like this guy asks a question. This guy asks a question, and then it's the wrong question, and Kim goes, mm-mm. And then you see like 3 guards grab the guy, and he's like, no, and they're like dragging him out. That would be pretty impressive.
수행하는
I mean, I know he has the power to do it, but I just wonder how often he actually utilizes that power.
대한 연대가 흐르고 있다고 하시면서 그러나 눈부신 개발을
I wonder if he can Dougie. It's kind of the thing I was thinking right now. He's a very rotund man. These guys, I wonder if he makes sure that all the people around him are around the same height, because like he wants to be the top level. He needs to alpha everybody.
정의한 의의를 가지는 정치적 계기가 되었으며 인민의 꿈과 염원을 빛나는 현실로 펼쳐가는 조선노동당의 웅대한 리상과 자력의 억센 힘은
Why doesn't this guy have an undershirt? None of these guys have undershirts. Even the guys in the military uniforms. Like, I know he'd have like a short sleeve, but I just highly doubt that this is just like a polo shirt. Bought this online.
사회주의 건설의 모든 방면에서 현저한 변화, 눈부신 개발을 다계단으로 입체적으로 안아오며
This type of shit's just crazy. Like, is this necessary? Really? And you know that he has them do it for real. You know that this isn't faked at all. There's no CGI needed. They're working in the fields.
계속 심했는데 선동이 해상에서
Just some weather. Some weather, okay. I'm gonna go use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. You know, this is pretty weird. But yeah, I'll be right back, and then we're gonna move on to the next little thing. I might check into this every once in a while, just because why not, but at the moment it doesn't seem particularly necessary. Just kind of I mean, it's weird, but I want him to add English subtitles. He needs to figure out how to outsource that. I'm sure there's somebody that could do it for fairly cheap. What? YouTube not notifying you? No, they're shadow banning me. I'm doomed, I'm doomed. No, but I just went to the restroom real quick. Now we're gonna move on to, I heard about this, I must have heard about this when it happened. Because basically, a year ago, but thank you for coming to the stream, I just want to say. What's good? But, sorry, resetting this. Okay, so almost 2 years ago at this point, there was a video called "Police Investigate Unseen Footage of Somerset Gimp as He Attempts to Harass Locals." So I don't know when the original videos were taken, but this was the news coverage of it. There was a guy. Let's get through this ad. So there was a guy who dressed in a gimp costume and would writhe on the ground, just crawl up to people while moaning and wriggling around. I've heard that game's pretty good. I'm thinking I'm gonna get that one. Probably as one of my next long form games. I'm just waiting for GTA 6, really. That's the thing I'm waiting for. Until then, I can make any game last. And then I need to stream it though. That way, it's worth something. But yeah. So 2 years ago, there was a gimp. He was writhing around on the ground, wriggling, acting crazy.
Why are you covered in mud?
Very odd. People assumed he was probably getting some kind of sexual gratification out of it.
Look what they did to you, man.
Look what they've done to me. Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't see this video. Maybe I saw the original clips because I didn't know that he got arrested. So I wanted to look into this to see it because I was wondering what happened to him. Because obviously this is odd. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What's his motive? Even if he is getting some kind of gratification out of it, what kind of gratification? So it's from Sky News. So take it for what it is. But this came out about a year after that YouTube upload. So it must have been kind of a developing story that they were kind of keeping up on. But so the Somerset Gimp banned from wearing a gimp suit in public and crawling, wriggling, or writhing on the ground for 5 years. Joshua Hunt, a self-employed gardener from Claverham, North Somerset, had been linked by police to 25 incidents across the country over the past 5 years. I like that they call them incidents. They're 25 incidents. Does it just count as him? Because it's just all the times that he went outside and made people feel uncomfortable. Yeah, and it just says that a man known as the Somerset Gimp has been banned from dressing in an all-black gimp suit in public at night and crawling, wriggling, or writhing on the ground for 5 years. I don't know if that is something that will be upheld. How are they gonna really charge that if he does go out dressed up as a gimp again? I guess this is the outfit that they had. He washes it pretty well, honestly. In this video, he's completely... wrong one. In this video, he's completely covered in mud. I thought it was leather or something. But this just looks like a basic, tight, under... whatever you'd call it, an underfit. He was stepping out in front of cars, too. The court previously heard the witnesses to the incident in October last year said they saw a man wearing a gimp suit who grabbed his penis over the top of his clothing and also gyrated against the floor. Okay. So this is like he must have not seen who they were, thought they were some women or something, and then went up to them, and then when he got up he said, "Look what they did to me."
You want a ciggy? Well, I can't actually light it. Did you one up? You can have a ciggy. Hold on.
I wanted a cigarette too. These were his masks. Okay, this is horrifying. This looks like some serial killer shit. So Peter Richardson, defending, said Hunt had taken a pragmatic and practical approach to the application. We are not contesting the application, but that is not the same as agreeing with everything that is set out, he said. The sexual risk order was imposed for 5 years and also means Hunt will be on the sexual offenders register for the same period. Makes sense. So this is the guy. You know, I just thought it was only fair. Got someone from Germany, so we have to give some international news. I hadn't seen the update on this, so I wanted to see what happened to him. I mean, I was assuming he got arrested, but just the idea that they punish him by saying no more wearing your suit, like they're his mom or something. It creeps your friends out. They don't like it. I only make an order if I think it is necessary to protect the public from you, and I do think it is necessary. That's what the district judge said. A sexual risk order is quite a serious order, and it has a lot of obligations of you, and if you breach this order, you can go to prison. Man, okay, so they're going to send him to prison. Because there's no way some degenerate like this is going to be able to not wear his 4 homemade masks. Nah, see, if you don't know what a GIMP is, don't look it up. It's basically a guy who is into being dominated by other people. So they like to be punished and hurt and things like that. Doesn't have anything to do with race.
Look what they did.
Looks like he's wearing latex, like blue latex gloves too. They're just covered in mud. Very odd. But yeah, that's that. And now, this is probably the only real thing I'm gonna watch. I don't know for sure. Or actually, I'll watch the other one instead. I'll watch this one on another day. Ooh. So I'm trying to decide between this and the other one. So one is called She Married Her Son. How Could It Happen? The complete documentary. This is something that is very odd. The American Experience, number 116, Sins of Our Mothers, some crazy documentary someone made about some mom. This was made by PBS Television. This was a PBS television special from the 1970s. Directed by Rocky Collins. But it's between this... Sorry, going on a lot of weird stuff today, I guess. This or... I don't know if this is any better. This was just me skimming through it. I haven't actually watched it yet. This is The Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, the full-length documentary by Alex Jones, that is supposed to be this documentary is meant to unveil the elite and show the Bohemian Club that is here's the thing about the Bohemian Club is a private club with 2 locations, a city clubhouse in the Nob Hill district of San Francisco, California, and the Bohemian Grove, a retreat north of the city of Sonoma County, or it's north of the city in Sonoma County. Bohemian Grove is where this takes place, though, and basically it's just supposed to be a breakdown of the elite. But it's 2 hours long versus an hour long. I didn't plan on streaming for too long today. I think I'll do the hour today, and then maybe I'll watch the Bohemian Grove one on Thursday, or on Wednesday, I mean. Yeah, that'll probably be for the best. Now this is just going to be... They seem like my guess is, this is Boston, but my guess is this is happening somewhere in Appalachia. That's my guess. But yeah, this is an upload by David Hoffman called She Married Her Son. How could it be? A complete documentary. So I'll read the little description because it'll give a little bit of a preface, I assume. My team and I made this PBS television special, Sins of Our Mothers, based on an interview that I had done way back in the mid-1970s with 89-year-old reporter Nettie Mitchell. The documentary tells the story of Emmeline, and the story is amazing. Without her knowledge, Emmeline sinned and paid a heavy price for it. The director of this documentary, Rocky Collins, was young but very, very talented when he made this. It has a unique, slow, and strange Puritan New England tempo and mood that absolutely fits the story and how Nettie told it. When this was recorded in 1976, Nettie had an excellent memory and was a very serious reporter who cared about telling the truth exactly as she saw it. She had spent a lifetime doing it. Every rural area in the county and certainly in Maine has its folk tales. Some commentators on this video say that this is a folk tale and that it couldn't have happened. Nettie personally met and dealt with Emmeline, and it or something very much like it did happen. It is possible that some details are incorrect, although we spent more than 6 months researching it. When we did make this documentary, and some of those who met Emmeline were still alive. Sex in Puritan culture was a sin under most circumstances. Women were certainly seen as of less value and importance than men. Remember the Scarlet Letter. Some commentators have pointed out that the Puritan sect of Christianity had long disappeared in Maine, but in my experience as a person who lived in Maine in a small town for more than 20 years, some of the values are held by a segment of the people who live in these towns today. The concept of sin, the concept of sinful sex, the concept of women as less than, and more. Many commentators have pointed out the connection between this story and Oedipus. Unquestionably true. So, based on that breakdown, I'm assuming that the idea of this isn't just a woman involved in an incestuous relationship with her son. This sounds like the story of Oedipus, where a woman is separated from her child or whatever, and then they eventually meet later and then become married. And honestly, this sounds kind of fucked up to say, but if you don't know who your parents are, I'm sorry if you find someone that you fall in love with. You shouldn't get involved with someone that much older than you when you don't know who your parents are. Just kind of want to weed that one out immediately. But yeah, so then let's just get into this. This kind of intro bit's a little loud. And then, sorry, I needed to see as well, just to make sure.
A Gothic tale of unspeakable sin in 19th century Maine.
There's a triple header. There was the baby, there was the lie, the cover-up, and there was the marriage.
And nobody spoke to her. No one went near her. And therefore she was entirely ostracized.
Tonight on The American Experience, Sins of Our Mothers.
Your comment got deleted? That is weird. Because usually when they get, like, deleted, it'll show me a redacted message, but it didn't even go through. I don't know. It's weird. Is this like an alias? David McCullough, but David Hoffman posted this.
Major funding for the series is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by this station and other public television stations nationwide.
Corporate funding for the American Experience is provided by Aetna, insurance and financial services.
Oh, I've actually never heard of Monument Mythos. It's probably taken from the same story. Yeah, there's probably just different. It probably just takes since it is like a alternate history like sort of thing. It probably just uses a lot of different types of not just mythology, but then like different I guess, yeah, I mean it's literally called the Monument Mythos, just different types of mythology and stories, folklore and tales.
For more than 130 years, a part of the American Experience.
Hello, I'm David McCullough. Our film, Sins of Our Mothers, is a strange, haunting story that's been told for more than a century in Fayette, Maine, a town so small it doesn't figure on most present-day maps. For much the better part of our country's history, the American Experience has been life in a rural backwater, on remote farms and in small towns, in places like Roswell, Georgia, Liberty, Missouri, Red Cloud, Nebraska, each of which has its own story, as I know from experience working with old records there and talking with people. And for all that seems to have vanished with time in such communities, it's amazing how many telling details of lives long lost can still be recovered. For a long time, this story was told only in whispers in Fayette. Then a writer for a local paper decided to speak up. Later, a novelist based a best-selling book on the story of Emmeline, as it is known. Later still, our filmmakers set out to determine how much was only hearsay and legend. What they've recorded is an old-fashioned detective story about the strengths and failures of community.
Okay, so there is a book called Emmeline by Judith Rosner, which is yeah. Well, I guess we'll get into it, but yeah. So there's a book about it too, but it was written in 1980. Oh, but it's set almost 100 years earlier. But people are saying that they've met her. And okay, let's just get into it. Ah, he produced it. Okay. This beginning's a little unnerving, I can't lie. Hitting kind of a good beat, though.
Donna Berry, come to West Wing, please. Donna Berry, West Wing.
Mrs. Murphy, when were you born?
I was about 103 years ago. You'll figure it out.
Do you remember Emmeline Gurney?
I remember hearing about her.
What did you hear?
Well, she was a mystery. She was a mystery. Nobody understood her.
Sorry, I have to cut this part out because they use some copyrighted music. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't think it affects anything. I'll leave it in. It's fine. I'm gonna just put on subtitles anyways, though.
Just like you, I was a witness. Heard what people said. And she was not.
I mean, getting a secondhand account from an old lady is kind of not the best, I don't think that's like the best accounting we should use. Not only was she not there, but she's probably forgotten the way the story was even told to her.
Good company. I mean, they didn't talk good about her.
I can only tell you what I've heard from my grandmother, because of course this was way before my time. She had had a very bad tragedy in her life, so that people didn't want to go and talk to her.
See, she seems like she's all there. I understand she looks sharp. But I'm saying you can only, like, you have to give her at least like a 20% kind of like this, like, not only is it a secondhand account, but like, is she really going to remember the story of some random person that like she never met? I find it a little hard to believe. She's been telling the neighbor's tea for years.
Has said it was pitiful the way she
You're right.
died.
She's just been retelling the story over and over again.
People was cruel. That's the way I would look at it. I should call them cruel, treat anybody that way. Because I've heard she used to go out and pick berries and stuff like that to keep herself alive. Nobody'd pay no attention to her, and back when I was growing up, that was a curse to you.
I'll check it out. I'll check out Monument Mythos. Maybe we'll watch it on stream at some point.
Every small town in Maine has its legends, some of them true. Some are of heroes and heroines and can be told with pride, while others, like the tale of Emmeline, are stories of people deemed unworthy of official history, but who are remembered years later by people in...
YouTube's just on some bullshit. I don't know why they're deleting your comments. That's really weird.
...the town because of sins and...
Because like I'm saying, I think the other day someone's comment got deleted, but I saw it come through and then it said redacted comment. So I don't know. That's really weird.
...sufferings so dreadful that they become warnings for future generations. But time changes everything, even a town's notions of who is a sinner and who is sinned against.
They used to tell it as a bad example, don't be Emmeline, don't ever do what she did. Mind your own business, stay at home. The whole bit about woman not doing anything but what Papa tells her to. Then, of course, now with the change in attitude towards her problems, they seem to feel sorry for her more than anything else.
The story...
I mean, we don't know the story yet, but it sounds more like product of circumstance more than anything, so... Like, awful circumstances, clearly, but... Yeah, it's like, it's like beating a boy for contracting leprosy or something.
The story of Emmeline is shocking. But a shocking story can give insight into the taboos and punishments of the past, and into the daily lives of some of those people whose existence would never make it into the annals of history, were it not for scandals such as this one. Which is why we owe a debt to one small-town storyteller and reporter. It hurt her to reveal dark secrets about the town she loved, but for her, the story of Emmeline was a means of correcting old wrongs.
I am Nettie Mitchell. I am 89 years of age. I live in the town of Fayette, where I was born and have lived practically all my lifetime. And I would like to tell you one of the saddest and most heartbreaking tales that has come to my notice. Is a true story. Something that happened right here in this town in the long ago. I knew this old lady when I was a tiny child, and she was very sweet and lovely. She was one of a large family of children in a very impoverished home in the early 1800s. At the age of 13, visitors from Lynn, Massachusetts, arrived at the home, and seeing the poverty and deprivation there, said, "Why don't you let us take Emmeline back with us to Lynn, and she can work in the cotton mills. She's old enough to work there. And she can go work in the cotton mills and send you money to help with the expenses back home." They thought it over and decided to let her go, and she went. She was an efficient, hard-working little girl, but she was entirely among strangers in a strange land, very, very different than anything she had ever known before. Among those who were friendly to her, as most of them were not because she was entirely different, was her young boss, a young man. And he became very friendly, and she yielded to him, to his persuasion. And by the time she was 14, she was the mother of his child. She did not dare to let her people back home know what had occurred. The people where she was staying made arrangements.
It's even worse when, you're, it sounds like she was a product of abuse, but not even that. It's like she comes from a society that wouldn't have accepted her as, accepted her as she was. Because horrible things happen to you, you can't blame the child, and that, that's terrible.
To sell her baby to a childless couple nearby them who would pay her expenses and pay for her transportation back home if she would go as soon as she was able. She returned to her home, and she worked very hard in the fields and all, but she didn't join very freely in the social life of the community. As she grew older,
this literally does sound like a folk tale. It doesn't sound necessarily real, but I'm very invested at this point because I can see where it's going, her being only 13, 14 at the time, and then after another 18 years or whatever, she's only in her, early 30s. Very, very wild.
Parents and others began to wonder why it was that she shunned all the young gentlemen around. She was a very pretty girl, and they couldn't understand it. In her early 30s, while she was working at home, a young man came to town to build highways. And he was a very personable young chap, and he came to board at their home. Although she was so many years older than he fell desperately in love with her, and she with him. And they decided to marry and have a home of their own. They did, and built a little cottage down by the shore of Mosher Pond. They moved in there and had been married something less than a year when his people from Massachusetts decided to come to visit them. They came down, and to their horror, they discovered that he had married his own mother.
That is literally the story of Oedipus, minus the whatever the soothsayer telling him that he has to that it was his destiny to marry his mom, and also I guess he didn't kill his dad yet, so we'll see what happens.
Of course, when this was revealed, the marriage was annulled, declared broken up, and he reluctantly bade her goodbye. It was considered a horrible sin for her to have had the child, and she had married illegitimately, and therefore she was entirely ostracized.
To be shunned by family and friends in a 19th century New England village was almost the equivalent of life imprisonment without trial.
No one went to comfort her. No one helped to support her. The silence of all those years.
Not the doll again. Nah, this is just that is a very sad story because I get the anger and confusion that they must have felt because they didn't even know she was ever pregnant, but the whole idea that she was abused and then basically is just getting shunned and separated from the support that she does have is crazy. And obviously it's not like they can stay together, it's her blood son, but it's a lot for both of them to deal with at that point. He's never had a mother, he had parents, but he's never known his true mother, and then this is the way you find her. Not a good look. And people, there is something, I forget what it is, there's a psychological thing where people that are separated at birth can end up attracted to their parents or their siblings or whatever because of the just similarities or what. I forget what it is. There's something there, but that doesn't mean that it's a justifiable thing to happen.
Nettie Mitchell helped to break that silence because she felt that the injustice that Emmeline experienced was something that people today should know about. She first told the story to outsiders when this footage was shot in 1975. Generations of Fayette townspeople at that time had grown up hearing strange things about Emmeline. Nevertheless, such more...
I've never heard about this. I'm going to see if I can find the Bola cyclone. I'm going to see if I can find maybe a video about it. Maybe I'll watch that too. Thanks for the suggestion.
Moral transgressions as hers were not the type of thing one discussed freely with children or strangers. People's attitudes began to change only after a best-selling author from New York heard of the story and came to Fayette to find out more from Nettie Mitchell.
I'm getting along.
Yeah, well, we all.
I'm 89 years old now.
That author was named Judith Rossner, and other than Nettie herself, she found few people who were willing to talk about a shameful incident in their ancestors' lives. Because of the difficulties she encountered researching the story, Rossner did what any novelist would have tried to do. She turned the legend into a popular piece of fiction.
Judith, we've been able to find out quite a bit of information about Emmeline and about life in this town during her day that people apparently, even a few years ago, weren't willing to talk about. What's changed since you were working on your novel?
Well, when I went around originally, I could find nobody who knew Emmeline or had anything to say about her. I gather that that has changed and that there are many people who are quite
I'll add that one to the list. Thanks.
convinced that they remember one part of the story or another, or knew Emmeline or knew someone who knew her or whatever. And aside from the normal human urge to participate in an event, perhaps another reason is that the existence of the book, and then of course of a great deal of television stuff, conversation, and so on about incest that had never been talked about very much before then, has made it all somewhat less forbidden. It's okay now to know something about it.
Ostracized by the town during her own lifetime, Emmeline has now become Fayette's most famous citizen.
I mean, I'd assume so. Who's ever heard of Fayette? Fayette, Maine.
Emmeline was a real person. We've located town records that reveal that much and a great deal more. Her parents were Aaron and Sophia Batchelder, and Emmeline was the fourth of their 5 children living on what is now known as the Chesterfield Ridge Road. But to really understand Emmeline's story, why she was sent away, why she was punished so severely, one has to first understand the world she lived in. This wilderness was first settled when soldiers in the Revolutionary War received pieces of it as payment for their efforts, and brought families north from Massachusetts and New Hampshire to homestead among the rocks and mosquitoes and frosts of the province of Maine. It was beautiful countryside, but to make a home here was more difficult than many had imagined. Not one drawing or image of any sort exists that can show us what Emmeline and her family actually looked like. The lives of struggling rural families were rarely documented, except in a few melodramatic illustrations. The only way
or their stories told like between each other. It would usually be passed down verbally through folktale like this.
To glimpse their world at all is to piece together threads of written and oral history, her hometown's collective memory and our imagination.
People were carving out futures for themselves. With every tree they felled, with every pasture they cleared, there was the expectancy that life would get better. But when they cleared the last tree, when they cleared the last pasture, and moved the last rock they felt inclined to move, things were about as rugged as they were when they started. But they'd lost some of the expectancy, some of the anticipation.
By the time Emmeline Batchelder was born on January 30th in the year 1816, many families in Maine felt that even God had turned against them.
1816 and froze to death was one of the very worst years for Maine, agriculturally speaking and economically. There was a frost every month that year, even in the summer. The seed that was put in the ground froze, and no crop resulted.
Oh no, Mr. Capybara's back.
It was just dreadful.
Welcome
They felt that
We're
it
watching
was the
a
end
kind
of
of fucked
everything.
up documentary.
If Emmeline's family were on the edge of poverty, the year 1816 would plunge them really deep into poverty.
I don't believe
Thanks
that
for the credits. I appreciate it.
Emmeline had anything when she was growing up. I think that she might have had cast-off clothes from other people, and her parents may have had just enough to feed her meagerly.
Emmeline's life as the child of very poor people must have been a hard life. I don't believe anybody knows how bad it probably was. I believe that Emmeline's family were hungry at times.
I know what 'twas to grow up without having too much. But I don't say that I went to bed hungry any time. We always had, well, not that we growed. It might not be out of a store, but we had potatoes and vegetables and stuff like that got through the summer. So we had enough to eat. Might have been the same thing, but we had enough to eat.
Sorry, we're in the middle of something. Can't be searching up top 10,000 cheese.
People were
Here, just for you.
pretty
I'll
good
look
about
it up
helping
in,
each other
I'll
with
look it
the
up in a
hard
separate.
work, the difficult work.
If you were excluded from this cooperative effort, much more threatening the world would be for you.
If a family was poor and they couldn't get along and there was work somewhere, why a child might only be 8 or 9 years old and have to go to work. And around here, they were farmed out.
The farming out of child labor was not uncommon in New England. Childhood was a luxury most pioneers could hardly afford. Emmeline's parents probably tried to avoid a trap all too common among the poorest families. The trap in which children, like livestock.
You think I'm some kind of idiot? I did look it up in YouTube. I see the video. It's 11 hours long. You expect me to watch this? Here, I'll click to a random point in it. Number 5,122 is whatever this is. Does he say it? They literally, wait, do they say it? Just tab me. Yeah, whatever this one is. I wonder if they used AI to make this, because actually editing an 11-hour video, rendering an 11-hour video, and then uploading an 11-hour video would take forever. Nah, couldn't be me. Especially because Flaming Hot Cheetos is only, what is that? Number 4,781. That ain't even possible. And the number one cheese is, what is this, flan? What is that? We're spoiling the ending. Is regular grilled cheese? That's not even a cheese. To be fair, that's literally not even a type of cheese, so. True failure.
Could become
now back to this video about the real life Oedipus.
A tradable commodity among desperate neighbors.
Well, you're lucky, Vidad, because Mr. Capybara over here, just saying, not so octahedron just takes too long. But he wanted me to look up top 10,000 cheeses, so we looked at that for a second. Well, he didn't. I did, personally.
This was something that was done.
So you didn't miss much.
I know as a man that I knew that his mother was sold for a horse or something, but they just I
need to run that back. What?
This was something that was done, and I know as a man that I knew that his mother was sold for a horse or something, but they just they
sold his mom for a horse. That's like, I think that's worse than the whole Oedipus situation. Like, this is crazy.
Didn't have any money, and they had to have
forage. Go kill some birds with rocks and eat those. I don't think you need to sell your mom for a horse. How is a horse going to benefit you at all either? All that is transportation. You're not going to eat a horse. Are you making glue? What's the...
horse or a mule or something, and they just traded them off.
And the children were lonesome growing up. They did an awful lot of...
And I'm sorry, if your mom is only worth one horse, you need to get a better mom. Like, what, she can't cook, she can't clean, she can't knit, sew. Because this video is about a mom who married her son. I think that's kind of a clear one-to-one.
Taking care of themselves and going without, but they had the religious background to face it all.
It's very riveting. It
was the Baptist church that gave them that background. If Emmeline was like most people, the commandments and beliefs of the church would have become her rules, her beliefs. Fayette settlers had made this the first major building in town, and from it emanated all values, all structure, all knowledge with which they understood the trials and tribulations of life. When a new young member was baptized in this local pond, that act represented their lifelong commitment to a path of righteousness.
One would make a covenant with brothers and sisters to walk the Christian life. On the other hand, the members of that church community would likewise enter into a covenant to help keep them from all evil.
I remember reading the journals of the Reverend Dr. Paul Coffin, an early missionary preacher. And the most outstanding notation is, "There is witchcraft aplenty in Fayette."
Why is this going down such a weird rabbit hole now? Like, we started off with the story of a mom who got pregnant at 13 and then accidentally married her son at 30, and now we're talking about witchcraft in Fayette. This is, David Hoffman, I think you need to work on your, clarity.
Milk that would curdle, things that would fly through the air. Strange...
I think they threw that cat in. Oh, no, he is standing up there, okay.
Milk that would curdle, things that would fly through the air. Strange things that would happen in the community and were reported to the church officials. And authority was sought over those spiritual powers as instructed by Jesus.
Did you say that because Vadad said that? Is that why you said that, or are you saying that completely separate? Because if you're saying that completely separately, that's pretty weird. And I am thinking I'm gonna watch that one next. I have it pulled up on my other monitor.
Church records indicate that there were women in Fayette during Emmeline's childhood who were suspected of witchcraft by the deacons of the church. Everyone, even Emmeline, would have known what punishment those women faced.
If a person did something which the congregation felt was wrong, they were censored by the congregation. And they had to appear in the church and they had to confess the sin or the mistake they had made to the congregation in order to be either forgiven or accepted or ostracized from the church and the community.
One lady in the old times here found it more convenient to seek a soothsayer on Sunday than go to church. She would go 10 miles for a soothsayer, but wouldn't go a mile to church. For such a thing, they would be removed from the fellowship.
If she were a bad woman, you wouldn't want your children to go anywhere near her.
I'll watch it after this. This only has, what is that? 20 or 30, the 30s, 38 to 32 minutes, something like that.
You wouldn't want to have anything to do with her. You know, she might
I know that math was
contaminate the
off,
whole
but
of
whatever.
society.
Same difference.
Ostracizing any bad
I'll finish
elements
this
in
off
town.
because this is getting very interesting with all the witchcraft. This is melting my brain. That's why I can't count time. But this is getting interesting for me. So yeah, it's 17 minutes, but I'm gonna finish this in like 30 minutes. Yeah, why did that take me so long? 35 minutes. I'm just stupid. But yeah, we're gonna finish this off.
Was an isolated community's most effective means of policing itself. Emmeline would have been taught early that to run afoul...
Straight up, my brain broke. They were talking about incest, now they're talking about witches and child witchcraft. How do you give birth to a witch? That doesn't make any sense. Are their parents witches? If they're not, then how does that happen?
Of the congregation meant losing the benefits of the only society there was in Fayette. This public school and others like it were built to reinforce the authority of the church. Children were taught how to read in order that someday they could live by the teachings of the Bible. Some children must have wondered how to...
In the Bible, it's written, no shirt, no shoes, no service, so these kids need to get it in check.
To reconcile the realities of their own lives with what they read in their school books.
If I were as poor as those little children who came here begging yesterday, I should not take the least comfort in the world. My little daughter is mistaken, said her mother. Poor children are just as happy as rich ones, except when they are suffering from cold or hunger, and that very seldom happens in America.
It sounds like when I try to read.
Our Father who lives in heaven takes care of them as well as of you.
Often surprised me that more help was not forthcoming from the church for a family such as Emmeline's that was so very poor.
There was no advocate for the poor. Nobody cared. It was the custom in the towns to gather up the poor people who could not support themselves every May and hold an auction.
Throughout the northeastern United States, small towns had a primitive system of caring for their poor. Indigent men, women, and children, and whole families were displayed in local meeting houses and taverns so that people who were looking for cheap help or a bit of extra income could make a bid on a pauper. The lowest bidder took that pauper home as a worker and was paid by the town to lodge the person for 1 year.
The prices were quite interesting. If a pauper were old, maybe bedridden, unable to do any work at all, and have to even have her meals carried to her, you know, or if the person was mentally ill and were sold complete with their cage, the town would have to pay more for their care and keeping. Auctioning them off, it sounds like a terribly humiliating experience. To be set up and sold is actually what it amounted to. And people, they just feared poverty terribly.
There are the stories about single men, widowers, men who had never married, who bid off a pauper for...
I forgot what the point of that paradox is, but I have heard of that before. Sure, it's only 6 minutes, so why not? We'll watch it after the other video.
Shall we say purposes other than cooking their meals? That could have happened to her, too. She may not have been any better off if she had stayed in Fayette as a pauper than she was going to Lowell to the mills.
To send Emmeline away to work was the right thing to do. There's absolutely no question about it. Because if she saved the family from being sold at pauper auction, much worse could have happened to Emmeline than happened to her at Lowell. And they were simply choosing the lesser of two evils.
Although Nettie Mitchell said that Emmeline went to Lynn, it was almost certainly Lowell, Massachusetts, where she would have been sent. The city of Lowell had been built to produce cloth. Unlike other mill towns, the men who owned the corporations there had planned from the beginning to employ almost exclusively young women. For years, wagons, known as slavers, traveled New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine to seek out the girls who would do their work. God-fearing New England parents must have thought long and hard before sending their daughters. But the attractions of Lowell outweighed the negatives for many, many families. Girls like Emmeline were sent on what amounted to an heroic 3-day journey, so that there would be one less mouth to feed at home, and so they could send money back to the family from a world away.
Bit loud.
2,500 women between the ages of 13 and 35 were assembled along the banks of the Pawtucket Falls and put to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The masterminds of Lowell had utopian visions for their new city. They imagined a boarding school environment in which girls would better themselves not only financially, but culturally. Preachers, authors, and politicians were brought in to enlighten the young women and fill up their few non-working moments with uplifting activities.
And I'm sure it went just that way, right? Nothing can ever go wrong in those type of circumstances.
The mill owners also understood that New Englanders of Puritan stock would never have sent their daughters anywhere, no matter how attractive the wages being offered, if even a question of ethical impropriety existed. Thus, Lowell was designed as a temporary...
If this video has 28 minutes left, I don't know, it might take me a bit. Yeah, I don't know exactly how long. This has got 28 minutes, but I pause it, you know, I could do one of these. Here, I'll give you a little boost.
New England villages from whence the girls came. Rules and regulations were enforced of which a strict father would approve. Regulations against failing to go to church, missing curfews, drinking, seeing men. But the female factory...
If this really isn't as riveting as I think it is, we can always... We just passed the most replayed part, so... They might be done talking about witchcraft. And we can move on.
By all accounts, Emmeline Batchelder told no one in her hometown what happened.
Are they just retelling the story again? They might actually just be doing that.
Perhaps, as people say, Emmeline blamed herself, or feared that...
You might have. Seamen, like men that work in the sea. What's wrong with you?
Marriage might reveal her dark secret, so she waited until she was almost 28
Yeah, that's fine. I think they're retelling the story.
before she got married. Old enough to have been considered a spinster, as the men...
Interesting. This documentary is a bit odd. They seem to have retold the same story twice.
Other than that, nobody...
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full business functionality and a design tailored just for you.
This is the most dangerous storm in history.
Okay, bro. And just turn you down just a little bit.
A storm that almost ended the world as
Maybe a
we
little
know
bit
it,
more.
and most people have no idea that it even happened. In the year 1970, in a small bay located off...
I mean, why would I know that this happened, to be completely honest? We moved on, Badad. We're on to the storm that almost ended the world. Kind of just skipped the last part, so... I'll probably watch it on my own later. Hear the final story of Emmeline. But yeah, so this is by SPDS, or SPEDS, or SPIDS, or however you'd say that. The storm that almost ended the world from 3 months ago.
This is the most dangerous storm in history, a storm that almost ended the world as we know it, and most people have no idea that it even happened. In the year 1970, in a small bay located off of India, the clouds rumbled with proof that a massive storm was about to hit. However, 800 miles north, the East Pakistanis go about their daily lives, completely unaware of the impending threat brewing in the distant waters. On November 8, 1970, a collection of slow, swirling clouds are detected deep into the Bengal Bay, proof that a mini-tropical storm is about to form. On November 9th, in a single day, this area undergoes a rapid change, a change into a full-fledged tropical storm. The beginning of a hurricane or cyclone is near. On November 10th, the storm strengthens, but a very distinct path is formed for the storm, a path that, to the shock of those watching the radars, was seen to be heading directly towards the coast of East Pakistan at an alarming speed. Finally, on November 11th, the storm intensified into the strongest class of a tropical storm, a severe cyclone.
It's gonna hit Karachi. Oh no.
The cyclone moved towards land with no sign of stopping. However, most people near the bay would ignore the storm, because storms of this size are fairly common for the area. But unfortunately, completely unknown to everybody at the time, this once small collection of clouds was going to prove to be very different. It was going to prove to be much more effective at destruction. Known notoriously as the most deadly and destructive natural disaster in history, the Bola cyclone is a great example of what happens when a perfect storm hits the Earth.
That's cool and all, but you said it almost ended the world, so this is what I'm wondering. Because in one of the images I saw, it showed missiles. When I was looking it up on Google, it showed like a picture with missiles. So if it almost like offset like some trajectory of like nukes or something, that would be pretty crazy. But it's in the 70s, so I guess we'll see. We will learn today.
After the cyclone reached its peak, I learned just how dangerous the Bola cyclone was. From the incredible book The Vortex by Scott Carney and Jason McLean, this story was not just a simple story of a random cyclone. Instead, it's a story of how one cyclone can grow into something that could have destroyed the world. And unfortunately, the storm was going to hit very soon. But there was one problem. At this point, still, no one near the bay seemed to care about the storm. With a storm this size, meteorologists and radar watchers would be violently sounding alarms telling people to take shelter and prepare for the storm. But instead, nothing? The truth is, I lied. It's not that the Pakistanis thought the storm wasn't that bad, it's that the East Pakistanis had no idea the storm was even coming in the first place. With a storm this big, a complete and utter failure of emergency systems wouldn't just be a small problem. It would prove to be absolutely murderous. In 1970, East Pakistan was not granted with very many emergency systems. Radars, sirens, and pretty much anything to detect and warn civilians of a deadly storm was very few and far between. On top of this, the Pakistanis also didn't really have a system to handle storms when they hit either. But what's odd is that the countries that surrounded Pakistan did. India, for example, had good enough weather detection systems and detected the storm way back when it first formed. India knew this entire time that the storm was raging towards Pakistan. But because of the two wars between India and Pakistan, political tension between the two countries would mean that India might have had no interest in alerting the Pakistanis of the storm earlier. The Pakistanis were not told anything about the storm from anyone. Obviously, this would prove to be a massive problem for the East Pakistanis. Not being able to prepare for a storm like this and being hit without any protection is, to say the least, absolutely horrifying. But what if I told you that not knowing when the storm would hit would be the absolute least of their worries? Because around the time of November 12th, the dark night sky harbored the most dangerous part of this entire disaster: a full moon. Why would a full moon be the most dangerous part of this storm? Well, that answer is the reason that this storm just got kicked up to a whole nother level of destruction. It's the reason this storm is the most dangerous storm in history. It's because of high tides. When the moon is full, the gravitational pull from the moon makes all tides roughly 20% higher. The tide is risen dramatically. But with the high tides already being dangerous and the water being significantly higher up on the shore, the Bola cyclone now has a huge destructive advantage, allowing the cyclone to literally—
I only know about that because of Majora's Mask and the old game theory video about if the moon really hit the Earth, it would cause tidal shifts that would, kill everybody before the moon actually hits or whatever.
Literally drag the ocean and horrifyingly allow it to take over the land of East Pakistan. The Bola cyclone was about to hit at literally the worst possible time. However, the people would finally get some disaster warnings on the 12th. After realizing the true danger of this monstrous cyclone, the meteorologist department in Pakistan had finally issued a report and dispersed a radio message warning of the cyclone. But the meteorologist department had limited information, because their information came from central Pakistan. In central Pakistan, they had developed a new system to rate storms, a 1 to 4 scale, with 4 being the most dangerous. But back in East Pakistan, they were still using the old-fashioned 1 to 10 point scale, 10 being the most dangerous. So when the radio had transmitted in a few jumbled words, "Great dangers ahead, scale 4, the civilians were not only confused, but they shook it off, assuming 4 is nowhere near as bad as 10. But little did they know, 4 was catastrophic. But unfortunately, a simple radio message would not be enough to sway most residents. Most people wouldn't take the storm too seriously just from a simple radio message. Why was there such a lack of preparation for this storm?
I mean, honestly, if you're getting... I feel like the words danger, like, you know what I mean? Like, you should be able to hear in their voice what you need to do next, rather than just going off of the words themselves. Just them saying, it's a level 4, it's a level 4. But they're going like, oh my God, you need to get out of there. Like, I think you should probably care about it a little more than being like, level 4? These guys freaking out about...
It's not like this was the first time a storm like this has happened either. In the past, multiple deadly hurricanes in the area had killed thousands. And due to these horrible disasters, the central Pakistani government contacted the American government for help in developing better preparation for storms. But for political reasons between West and East Pakistan, the central Pakistani government didn't seem to carry out many of the plans they should have for East Pakistan. East Pakistan was seriously getting the short end of the stick here from pretty much everything. But at this point, it was already too late to try and fix things. The Bola cyclone was about to hit the shores of East Pakistan. The horrifying cyclone was about to make land. And to top all of this off, East Pakistan, which is now known as Bangladesh, is a very low coastal country. Its land barely rises above the water. The country is only 33 feet above sea level. Water on high tides alone floods the country. Hundreds of thousands of people live on the coast of the country. Hundreds of thousands of people that had no idea how big the effect of this cyclone would be. On November 12th, the Bola cyclone would strike the hundreds of thousands of people near the shore with absolute ferocity. And as the cyclone closed in on the land, the sun had fully set, and pitch black dark night had hit. Many people would be instantly surprised by the pure and utter raw, disgusting power of a cyclone that has finally reached its peak. The Bola
Is the difference between a hurricane and a cyclone is a cyclone has more, or is there no difference between a hurricane and a cyclone?
Bola cyclone had finally hit the shore.
Okay, so a tropical cyclone reaches maximum sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or higher, then it is classified as a hurricane, typhoon, or tropical cyclone, depending upon where the storm originated in the... Oh, okay. Okay, so in the North Atlantic, Central North Pacific, and Eastern North Pacific, the term hurricane is used. So that's the difference. Makes sense. It seems like there isn't like a major difference, and I don't know why it says that once they because you get just once storms reach winds of 74 miles an hour, that's when you can classify them as hurricanes.
Rising waters, absurd winds, rain that stings like 1,000 needles, and a storm surge and flood upwards of 33 feet high in some areas. Houses are completely leveled. The flood
30 what?
Needles and a storm surge and flood upwards of 33 feet high in some areas. Houses are completely leveled. The floods and ocean reach the roofs of most houses, spelling pure and utter catastrophe for those involved anywhere near the shore.
That is insane.
There was no way of countering this storm, and no one even knew that it was coming. Thousands of families struggled to the top of their homes. Many would pray that their house was tall enough, but unfortunately, a tall enough house wasn't very common. Most houses were entirely swallowed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In Manpura, one of the hundreds of isolated islands along the shore being hit, the man Hai and his family struggled to the top of their home as the flood poured and heightened by the minute. Luckily, Hai's home was one of the more sturdy and solid homes in the area, and luckily it also had a second floor. Most of the other homes did not, and were not nearly as sturdy. The area was severely underprepared for a flood of 20 feet high. Hai and his family...
It looks like it's unprepared for the freaking big bad wolf.
The area was
like... huffing and puffing is all they need.
Severely underprepared for a flood of 20 feet high. Hai and his family waited as they watched the flood reach slowly above the steps of their second floor. With time running fast and the flood rising faster, Hai realized the flood would entirely engulf the two-story home. He realized that the massive 20-foot storm surge would engulf everything on the coast and more. Safety in homes was not an option. The only way to survive this storm was to not be anywhere near it. His family was sobbing. Even the men cried and screamed. All of this had happened in 8 minutes for the family that was told a small cyclone would hit. A family that's home was more than half a mile away from shore. Eventually, Hai and his brother struggled to the roof of the house to hopefully get everybody up there away from the flood. But when they got up there, they would be barraged with the heaviest storm imaginable. 155-mile-per-hour winds and rain would sting the men like BBs on their skin.
So it's literally double what you would need to classify as a cyclone. It's going double the speed. That is insane.
And the roof would bend in...
I mean, literally, one piece of debris hits you, you're dead. I mean, that's going to go through you.
Creek from just 2 people standing on top of it.
Like
Having
the
the entire
raindrops
family
alone
up there was
probably
completely out of the question. However, in a split moment, Hai realized,
if not ripping
he realized
through
they had a
skin.
massive, tall and strong coconut tree 2 feet next to the house. His idea was for everybody to jump to the tree and hold on to it. Everybody would be able to jump. It was a 2-foot jump that even his grandma could make. Hai yelled his idea to the others and said he would try to make the jump first as a pioneer. But in the middle of the night with no vision, this jump was extremely dangerous. But regardless, he went for it. Hai jumped in the middle of the storm to the coconut tree. And he made it. So he yelled, I made it to the others, hoping that they would follow him. To no response. Assuming the storm was too loud, he yelled again, but heard a wave crash over the roof of the house. Hai, still with hope that his family could jump, waited. Continuously yelling, I made it, the waves slapped against the roof with unrelenting power, and the water continued to rise. Hai called out to his mom, desperate for a response. and with his cries turning from triumph and survival to despair, Hai called out to God. For the next hour or so, Hai would cling violently to the swaying palm tree, grinding his arms into the tree. Absolutely exhausted from holding on for hours in insane winds and rain, Hai would almost give into the waters below to join his family. He knew he could hold on no longer. His muscles were exhausted and he had had enough of this storm. Hai wanted to join his family. But just before he was about to give up, the storm fully and utterly stopped. Absolutely confused, Hai looked around. Everything came to a halt. The strong winds came to a small breeze, the rain was a light shower, and everything calmed. Hai was in the eye of the storm. Looking around, all he saw was water, debris, and dead bodies floating everywhere. The only significant landmarks were trees in the top 3 feet of the Mampura High School.
No, yeah, for the Noru typhoon, it says that it hit 110 miles per hour, or 175 kilometers per hour.
3 storms.
That's pretty crazy.
But Hai heard his uncle and aunt yelling for
But
help.
still,
trapped
this is
in
an
their
extra.
homes.
This was an extra what? An extra 30 miles per hour? That's crazy.
So he jumped into the flood and swam to their house. He got on top of the house and ripped a hole into the roof and helped them escape. He asked where everyone was, and his uncle yelled that they were all gone. But in true and utter annoyance and lack of care, the storm would not wait for Hai and his uncle to mourn the deaths of their family. Because somewhere far over the ocean, an angry growl presented itself over the sky. Like a group of diesel trucks starting up all at the same time, the storm had returned. Hai and his uncle and aunt all gripped tightly onto tall trees, and gusts of winds were hitting back at 150 miles per hour. They dug their scratched and cut arms into the tree's bark, holding on for dear life, and stayed there in the winds and rain, gripping as hard as they...
Honestly, if humans were actually smart, we would have, for the past 2,000 years, have attempted to become more able to survive in the ocean. We would have tried to adapt and evolve into being like ocean dwellers. Because like it is the one thing that we cannot defend against is the ocean. Like literally, it is the one thing that just instantly you're like completely immobilized, can't really do a whole lot. Anything that exists in there will kill you very quickly.
They could for the entire night. And at 4 in the morning, the cyclone's outer edges would pass Mampura, and Hai would plop down onto the faint bits of his roof that finally showed out of the water. He laid there, completely motionless, with the
The 110-mile winds are weak, I have to be honest. Oh no, we got a badass over here. I'm just kidding. Oh no. I'm just joking, but no, I imagine it probably is like an exponential thing. It's probably like an exponential thing though, where as you increase, it's just like a multiplier. It's like you're not just like you know what I mean? Like the difference between getting hit by a 5-mile-an-hour car versus a 10-mile-an-hour car is very drastically different. So
bodies of his entire family floating in the water below him. Hai had survived, but he was exhausted, broken, and all he wanted to do was die.
now that you say Hurricane Simulator, I have like a vague memory of doing a Hurricane Simulator when I was younger. And I feel like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. Like, are you disagreeing that the difference between getting hit by a car going 5 and going 10 miles an hour isn't drastically different? Because I feel like it's not an exact logarithmic scale where things are growing exponentially but I mean, like, there has to be an increase.
After the Bula cyclone came to an end, Hai's Mampura recorded that 40,000 of the 50,000 residents were all dead. The floods would recede and the hundreds of miles of destroyed land became visible. Hundreds of thousands of bodies were washed out into the Bay of Bengal. 90% of all of the homes were destroyed. All of the millions of people along the shore and in the country of Bangladesh experienced the exact same thing as Hai. The flooding, the holding onto trees and hoping for survival, and the lack of preparation due to lack of information from central Pakistan. Everyone that survived was absolutely heartbroken and understandably, beyond their retching guts, absolutely furious at the central Pakistani government for the lack of information. But you're probably wondering, how in the world did this lead to almost ending the world? Well, the answer to that is much darker than you think it is, and it starts way back right before the storm even hit. In West Pakistan, the head of government, Yahya Khan, made a terrifying decision during the cyclone. He chose on purpose not to provide aid or help for the storm to East Pakistan.
Okay, I'm not about to just... Okay, bro.
at
For
all.
sure.
He chose not to tell them anything or help them at all. Why? Because he believed that the East Pakistanis wouldn't vote for him in the upcoming election. So his solution was to kill as many people as he could so he didn't have to worry about bad voters. A disgusting decision that one of his generals later addressed as, quote, a cyclone that solved about 500,000 of their problems. Fortunately, this actually backfired very badly on.
Hey man, that's just called good business. He knew that he either had to genocide them or have a natural disaster happen. So he just got lucky, you know what I mean?
Leading everyone across East Pakistan to unite against him to vote for a man who actually did help in the disaster, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So how did Khan respond to this? Did he happily hand over the title of president? Nope, he actually decided to become a dictator. And to put very, very simply, instead, he jailed Mujib and started killing everyone in East Pakistan that didn't follow his orders. He started a mass genocide and said, quote, all we need to do is kill 3 million of them and the rest will eat out of our hands. So that's what he did. He started killing all Bengalis
Dude.
that went against him. Naturally, this started a full-fledged civil war between East and West Pakistan, with India, who did not like Pakistan, jumping in to help East Pakistan to take down West Pakistan and become their own country. However, if we're talking about countries jumping in here, the US also jumped in and supported their ally, Pakistan.
After we decide to help very minimally with the actual like efforts to stop this, then we're like, well, I mean, war, let's jump on that. War is our next best commodity, so.
Tensions soared very high with the US there, because the US sent out a warship to the Bay of Bengal. However, this was no ordinary warship. It was a nuclear warship. A nuclear warship capable of destruction close to 2,000 Hiroshima bombs. However, even worse, the Soviets, which were allied with India, came to play in the Bay of Bengal too, bringing their own nuclear warships to counter the US and protect India. This was a massive problem. We are literally looking at a full-fledged nuclear.
I almost forgot that it was the 70s too, so it's like, yeah, completely different world that they're living in.
War here. Nukes in any sense of the word in this situation against two countries could start a full-fledged nuclear breakdown between their allies, and neither of the two countries would cooperate. The two inched towards each other, and the Soviets and Americans communicated to each other that they would set the whole world on fire if the other country did not back down. Neither of the two countries were backing down. It was literally a game of chicken at this point. They inched closer and closer to each other and came just about to the brink of each other setting off the bombs. The world was only maybe a day away from nuclear fallout. But out of nowhere, back in East Pakistan, the East Pakistani resistance force in the war won. They seized the main city Dhaka, which means that East Pakistan is now Bangladesh. The war was over. Luckily, this miracle would sway everyone involved with the war away from each other, and the US and Soviets left, just days before absolute annihilation. Finally, after everything that Bangladesh went through, it was all over. But unfortunately, this wouldn't be the end, because in reality, Bangladesh had just been hit by the world's biggest cyclone and then by a massive genocide. They had nothing to establish a country. No political figures, no money, and a broken land. They were left with essentially nothing to start their country. Nothing but a genocide and a cyclone's remains. What Bangladesh experienced in 1970 was nothing short of beyond horrifying. The lack of knowledge, the high tides, the storm surge and floods, and the lack of help from everybody. And overall, the entire isolation in their own disaster. The Bula cyclone really did hit at the worst possible time. And even to date, there has not been a single storm in history that has even come close to the death count and destructiveness of the Bula cyclone, because the land of Bangladesh was stripped entirely naked to its absolute core. It was entirely ripped apart by the cyclone. But perhaps...
I mean, to be completely fair though, what would the preparations have done? I mean, they would have saved more lives, clearly, but I mean, if the destruction was that vast, it seems like it would have totaled their economy at least anyways.
Possibly Bangladesh was not just a naked and broken land, but instead, possibly it was a new land to grow upon.
That's a very optimistic outlook for that kind of ending, I have to be honest. That was a very much well, guess you gotta do with what you got. Jesus, man. All right, we'll move on to this now. The Infinite Hotel ran out of room.
You're an Amex Gold Card.
I remember this paradox. This video came out 3 years ago. I feel like I watched a video by some YouTube channel when I was a kid that talks about this. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. Isn't the whole thing that you can't have infinite rooms unoccupied once a room becomes occupied or something? Is it something along those lines? Okay, maybe I am wrong. I'm probably going to finish after this video, not going to lie. I wanted to do a short stream today because I was going to cut up some clips from some stuff that I had streamed, but then I'll be back again tomorrow at the same time to do Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, I'm going to finish up probably after this video. That would be much more annoying than just being able to imagine having to move your room every time a new person comes to the hotel. I'd just be pissed. Oh, the whole video's muted. My bad. I was trying to mute the ad before. Here, I'll restart it then.
Imagine there's a hotel with infinite rooms. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on forever. This is the Hilbert Hotel, and you are the manager. Now, it might seem like you could accommodate anyone who ever shows up, but there is...
Yeah, I'll look into Monument Mythos probably through tomorrow, and then I'll probably watch some of it Wednesday. I'll look into that Wednesday for sure.
Is a limit, a way to exceed even the infinity of rooms at the Hilbert Hotel. To start, let's say only one person is allowed in each room, and all the rooms are full. There are an infinite number of people in an infinite number of rooms. Then someone new shows up, and they want a room. But all the rooms are occupied, so what should you do? Well, a lesser manager might turn them away, but you know about infinity, so you get on the PA and you tell all the guests to move down a room. So the person in room 1 moves to room 2, the one in room 2 moves to room 3, and so on down the line. And now you can put the new guest in room 1. If a bus shows up with 100 people, you know exactly what to do. Just move everyone down 100 rooms and put the new guests in their vacated rooms. But now say a bus shows up that is infinitely long, and it's carrying infinitely many people. You knew what to do with a finite number of people, but what do you do with infinite people? You think about it for a minute and then come up with a plan. You tell each of your existing guests to move to the room with double their room number. So the person in room 1 moves to room 2 moves to room 4, room 3 to room 6, and so on. And now all of the odd-numbered rooms are available. And you know there are an infinite number of odd numbers, so you can give each person on the infinite bus a unique odd-numbered room. This hotel is really starting to feel like it can fit everybody, and that's the beauty of infinity. It goes on forever. And then, all of a sudden, more infinite buses show up. Not just 1 or 2, but an infinite number of infinite buses. So, what can you do? Well, you pull out an infinite spreadsheet, of course. You make a row for each bus, bus 1, bus 2, bus 3, and so on, and a row at the top for all the people who are already...
I mean, unnecessary. Just create a formula, and then just leave it, and then be like, well, we'll just charge them on the way out.
In the hotel. The columns are for the position each person occupies.
There might be an infinite number of rooms, but there's only one exit, so all these steps are unnecessary.
So you've got hotel room 1, hotel room 2, hotel room 3, etc. And then bus 1 seat 1, bus 1 seat 2, bus 1 seat 3, and so on. So each person gets a unique identifier, which is a combination of their vehicle and their position in it. So how do you assign the rooms? We'll start in the top left corner and draw a line that zigzags back and forth across the spreadsheet, going over each unique ID exactly once. Then, imagine you pull on the opposite ends of this line, straightening it out. So we've gone from an infinite by infinite grid to a single infinite line. It's then pretty simple just to line up each person on that line with a unique room in the hotel. So everyone fits, no problem. But now, a big bus pulls up, an infinite party bus with no seats. Instead, everyone on board is identified by their unique name, which is kind of strange.
Again, all these additives are unnecessary when you're talking about a real hotel. All these things don't matter.
So their names all consist of only 2 letters, A and B.
See you later.
But
have a good one.
Each name is infinitely long. So someone is named A, B, B, A, 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 and so on forever. Someone else is named A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, etc. On this bus, there's a person with every possible infinite sequence of these 2 letters. Now, A, B, B, A, 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 I'll call him ABBA for short. He comes into the hotel to arrange the rooms. But you tell him, sorry, there's no way we can fit all of you in the hotel. And he's like, what do you mean? There's an infinite number of us, and you have an infinite number of rooms. Why won't this work? So you show him. You pull out your infinite spreadsheet again and start assigning rooms to people on the bus. So you have room 1, assign it to Abba, and then room 2 to AB, 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 AB repeating, and you keep going, putting a different string of A's and B's beside each room number. Now here's the problem, you tell Abba. Let's say we have a complete infinite list. I can still write down the name of a person who doesn't yet have a room. The way you do it is you take the first letter of the first name and flip it from an A to a B. Then take the second letter of the second name and flip it from a B to an A. And you keep doing this all the way down the list, and the name you write down is guaranteed to appear nowhere on that list because it won't match the first letter of the first name or the...
That's an arbitrary thing to try and talk about, though, because you're speaking in infinites. Technically, there are no names on that list because you cannot write down an infinite amount of letters. Again, it would have to be like a formula written down, but then it wouldn't, then none of this would matter.
The second letter of the second name?
This is all like a thought experiment that only works in your brain, and if you try and think about it physically is where the error, I think, starts to appear.
Or the third letter of the third name. It will be different from every name on the list by at least one character, the letter on the diagonal. The number of rooms in the Hilbert Hotel is infinite, sure, but it is countably infinite, meaning there are as many rooms as there are positive integers 1 to infinity. By contrast, the number of people on the bus is uncountably infinite. If you try to match up each one with an integer, you will still have people left over. Some infinities are bigger than others. So there's a
but I guess that he kind of said in a more smart way what I was trying to say. Turn into a black hole. If it's a reference to something, I don't get it. Sorry. But this was very
the people that you can fit in the
so
Hilbert
I was
Hotel.
like, thank you for the video.
This is mind-blowing enough.
Subscribe to this channel.
What's even crazier is that the discovery of different sized infinities sparked a line of inquiry that led directly to the invention of the device you're watching this on right now. But that's a story for another time.
See, I'm telling you, the thing that would make me mad is having to infinitely move between rooms. That's the part that would get me pissed off. I think that's true, yeah. Because you just can't. See, I've been trying to I've been asking people about this, and I think this is an interesting concept because people think differently, and this is how we're going to end off the stream. Is we're going to have this little conversation. Sometimes I like to imagine the way that other people think because I think very visually, and I have a very strong imagination. So when I have my eyes closed, I can imagine what I usually tell people to do is imagine an apple. Close your eyes and imagine an apple. If you can imagine an apple, what type of apple do you see? Do you see a drawing of an apple? Do you see like a black and white apple? Or are you able to see a 3-dimensional image that you can then rotate in your head? I can imagine it with my hand. I can imagine it with nothing, just in a black void. I can imagine it in a setting, and I can move it around 360 degrees in any direction and visualize it. And I think that is something that is interesting because other people have told me that they can't visualize things like that. People can visualize things to a lesser scale and either see things as images that they have seen before. So when they're thinking about an apple, they will think about a picture of an apple that they saw on the counter, maybe in a previous day, or like the bins at grocery stores, things like that. Or they see drawings of like what an apple could look like the basic image of that, like pick art. Or clip art, like a clip art image of an apple, something like that. And then there are some people who can't visualize images at all and only visualize words. And those are the people that I find very interesting because I don't understand how you can only visualize words. How like the only things that come to mind are like, and when I try and visualize words in my head, I visualize big letters, but they don't have that. They're just thinking mentally. And I can have like a string of thoughts going where I can have multiple pieces of like independent thought going simultaneously while having an image going on in my head. Like all of those things are possible at once. But for some people, they're not. So, but then when you get into that, something that you can't think about is the idea of infinity. That was like the reason I brought that up, because of what you said. So like the idea of infinity is impossible. Like if I try and imagine infinite apples, I can imagine apples spilling over like a space, or like, you know, like completely filling up the space in my vision or whatever. But that isn't infinite apples. That is just like my perception of what apples beyond my beyond my comprehension would be. But that isn't an actual infinite amount of apples. The idea of infinite is impossible for us to comprehend. But that was just some dumb thinking. I don't know. And I think this is where we're going to end it for today. I don't think I had anything else too planned out. Just a little short one, just about 2 hours. I don't know if you saw before, I was looking at North Korea. Turkmenistan TV?
This is the Google Pixel 9, and this is what Trash Talk used to look like before you could ask Gemini to make an image of wide receiver gloves made out of butter. Their guys have been dropping stuff all day.
This guy's got Turkmenistan. So this guy, Peter Fairlie, has a big satellite dish that he built that picks up broadcasts from across the world. And one of the ones that he gets is North Korea. So he does re-uploads of North Korean broadcasts that's like full of their propaganda and like different political speeches and stuff that Kim Jong-un, or Kim Jong-un, right? Yeah, Kim Jong-il is the one that's dead. But yeah, he re-uploads them for people to watch in America. But I haven't seen his Turkmenistan one, and I don't even know who the ruler of Turkmenistan is. Yeah, it's pretty recent. It was on the news pretty recently. This is just his intro. Here, I'm gonna kind of skip into it because their whole thing too is he doesn't put like subtitles or anything. It's all just the raw broadcast. And if he added subtitles, it would be much more bearable. Jesus, dude's riding horses. This guy could die, like in this position, just falling straight off the back. Yeah, it's just North Korea light. That looks like a fake image. This looks like completely fake or highly edited. Turkmenistan x United Nations, the collab of the century. New drop. Their national anthem goes kind of hard though, can't lie. Gotta give them their dues. Is this the leader? Who's this guy? Just some kid? That's just some kid. I want to see what their leader looks like. I don't know who this guy is. Fuzzy hat horse guy sing along. Yeah, no, I was noticing that too when I was clicking away. I was like, oh shit, he's disappearing. So the leader of Turkmenistan is Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedu. Berdimuhamedu. I think that's how you say it. Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedu. Berdimuhamedu. Berdamuhamido. Maybe that's it. Interesting. Gurbanguly. Gurbanguly. What a guy. News update. Like, these don't have any. I'm telling you, he needs to get like some American guy, someone who's like a translator to do all of his subtitles so we can know what they're saying.
With so many choices on Booking.com, there are so many Tina Feys.
Like, he's got ads on these. So he's getting paid for these videos. Like, he's getting paid for these videos. He just needs to pay somebody to do some. Why does this guy look American? He's not. He just looks like an American guy. Like, I know this is Turkmenistan, but he just looks like he's some dude from Rhode Island.
Tağılalar neticesinde Türkmenistan bilen Vengriýanyň arasynda hoşnutly gatnaşylar barka kämilleşýär. Medeniyet günleriniň çäklerine geçirilen.
Yeah, I do have a girlfriend.
Şäherlere gatnaşmak bagty bile de meýser etdi. Munuň üçin Türkmen halkynyň milli lideri Gahrman Arkadagy hemde Türkmenistanyň hormatly prezidentine hoşallygyny beýan etdi.
Got some camels. This is the most replayed section. I was wondering what you meant by version, but yeah, yes, I do have a girlfriend. Watch these be the reason this video is taken down. MTV Music Special. Screeching Lady Presents. Oh, they're shredding. He does not look into it at all. He does not want to be here. He's really good at what he does, though. Maybe he's just completely locked in. You can see his eyes glazed over. Kids class time? These kids ain't learning shit. This is horrifying. Yeah, I'm okay, man. Some cartoons? Is it about a wolf getting hurt or something? Or a fox? Fuzzy Hat Man is back? No, okay, so his songs are just bangers. Dudes are shredding. Going crazy. He's been practicing his whole life for this moment. Old boys hangout. Just a signing off. A dreamy fish tank. Weird. Let me see if he has any. This is where I'm going to end it off. I want to see if he has any other countries. And then we'll have to call it for the day. Did I subscribe to him yet? So this seems to be where it started. And then, yeah, I think since then he's only gotten North Korea and then Turkmenistan. So, yeah. That's what we're going to call it for today. Thanks for coming into the chat. Coming to the stream. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. I'm going to be playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't remember where we're at in that game, but, you know, it is what it is. I will probably see you then. Professor Leonard. I'll check out Professor Leonard on Wednesday when I do the what was it called? He wanted me to check out Monument Mythos. So I'm going to check out Monument Mythos on Wednesday, and I'll check out Professor Leonard as well. So thanks for stopping in, and this is Captain Quasar signing off.